Ich mag meine Freundin nicht.
Das ist wirklich ungerecht. Hier, zum Beispiel der Rückenkratzer. Doch wunderschön.
Das ist eine Salatgabel.
Trotzdem, wunderschön. Komm mal hier. Dir werde ich mein neues Stück schreiben.
Du hast immer auch keinen Geschmack.
Manche Sachen schon. Von Jaska.
Hat dir natürlich doch ein Buch geschickt.
Du hast unsere Verabredung am Donnerstag vergessen. Oder hatte dein Dichter vielleicht zweimal hintereinander Geburtstag? Komm, steig ein. Steig ein. Du weißt nicht, was gut für dich ist.
All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Hello, Kelly. Hello, Stormy. Stormy, I was just talking to you. Good to see you tonight. Joni, Beth, former classmate of mine. Beth tuning in tonight. Good to see you as well. Can anybody, any of you, there's just a few of you in here right now, any of you be able to name that movie? It's fairly obscure. Hello, Amy. It's fairly obscure, but it's one of my favorites, probably one of in top 10 of all time. Of course, if you were watching, if you could see that, it has subtitles, and the language is German, so it's going to make it a little tough. Hello, Amy, Stephanie, Kelly, Holly, Joyce, Claudia. How's everybody doing tonight? Kelly, thank you. I'll give you one more look at the movie there. It's very obscure, very, very obscure movie, but it did win the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film back in, I think, about 2006, something like that. Any of you know what movie that was? It's one of my favorite, probably my top 10 of all time, probably. The movie that you were watching, if you happen to tune in, there it is again. There it is once again. The name of the movie is this. I'm going to write it. If you haven't seen that movie, I suggest you see it. It's spectacular. It's about what it was like to live in East Germany in the 1970s into the 1980s. And it tells the story of a playwright and an actress who are in love and the KGB agent who is spying on them. It's a spectacular, spectacular movie. Kelly, thank you. Hello, Joyce. Good to see you. Holly, thank you. Stephanie, no. And Bonnie says you made it. Bonnie, very happy to see you tonight. Very happy that you could make it in. But I was just telling all of you who just tuned in, I was talking about the movie that played in the pre-show for the first 3 minutes before I came on here. Movie is called The Lives of Others. And if you haven't seen it, you should. It's spectacular. As long as you like subtitles, which I don't mind. Andrea, welcome. Welcome. Good to see you tonight. So that was what it was, The Lives of Others. We got quite a few people already tuned in. And for anybody that's wondering, you can just look up there and see what the movie was that was in the pre-show tonight if you didn't get in early enough. It's called The Lives of Others. It's a German film, came out about 12 years ago, and it won an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. Just some things that have happened since we last talked to each other. Hello, Amanda. Thanks for joining tonight. The Super Bowl. I will be honest that I watched the whole thing. I did watch the whole thing, but I went to kind of a Super Bowl party for the first half, but then in the second half, I actually worked on an upcoming episode of Unfound. I went back over to my brother's where I was by myself, just me and his dog, and I sat on the couch and I was working on an episode that's going to be out in a couple weeks. And I watched the game while working on that. I just needed to get some work done. That's just the way I am. Nothing gets in my way when I need to get work done. So, Holly, you like the picture in the background. There you go. Yes, that's Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a poster from the first. I got it framed when I lived in Las Vegas, and I brought it here to Florida with me. And Mandy, welcome tonight. I don't know if I don't remember you tuning in before, but Mandy, I apologize if I don't, but welcome tonight. So I did watch all of the Super Bowl. I was happy that the Patriots lost, being that I'm a Steelers fan. I'm wearing another disc golf shirt tonight. I got a little disc golf in. I played disc golf until it got dark tonight. That's Eric McCabe, world champion at one time. This is a dynamic disc shirt. So I'm wearing another disc golf shirt tonight. I think I wore a disc golf shirt last week too. I think an Innova shirt. I think this is dynamic discs. We're going to be starting maybe right into the show. Going to be starting a newsletter. I'm going to take for granted that most of you are already on the email list that I've compiled. I've used it. I've made a list of people who, of course, signed up to watch the special Stephen Kocher episode at unfoundpodcast.com. And any of you who have had correspondence with me from unfoundpodcast@gmail.com, you're on the list as well. I'm going to start doing like a monthly newsletter talking about some things that behind the scenes stuff that I don't have a chance to get in maybe in the show, in the episodes, because I don't really have enough time to do that. Things that maybe I just don't feel comfortable bringing up in the group, because the group is mainly about missing persons cases. It'll mainly be business things, some links to things, but it'll probably be a monthly newsletter. So if you don't think that I have your email address and you'd like to be included on that, you can just send me an email at unfound.com and I'll put you on the list. I think my mailing list has, I don't know, about 400 people on it, something like that. So I haven't used that email list really much for anything yet, and I want to do that, and that's the way I'm going to do it, because I'd like to update you. I love to give you a behind-the-scenes look. This is what, I mean, doing this, I guess, is one way to do that. But I like giving you, all of you, a behind-the-scenes look at what goes on. I think it gives you a really good understanding of how a show like this is put together. And I really don't have anything to hide. I think that there's a reason that people like to watch DVDs with director's commentary and making of little documentaries about movies. People take an interest in that. And I want to try to do that. And this is one way of doing the Facebook Live show. But I think the newsletter will be another good way to do that, because we do have some things going on, and I'm going to get into that in a second. Jessica, good to see you tonight. And yes, I will absolutely get. I'm just one more thing that's on the list. I have to get all of my guests shirts for their missing loved ones. So Jessica, you're on the list. So you're going to be getting at least one free one. So it's just taking time. There's just only so many hours in a day, so many days in a week, but it's going to happen. No, Amanda. There's actually a Mandy. There's Mandy. I don't want to say anybody's last name here. No, there's a Mandy, and then an Amanda. So I got a Mandy and an Amanda tonight, and I will be sure to call both of you by your names in which you're on the screen. So we got Mandy, and then we have Amanda. So no, I thought Mandy. There is a Mandy up above you, Amanda. So no, I would if you say Amanda, I'm going to call you Amanda, and if you're Mandy, you're Mandy. So there's Jessica and Andrea and everybody else that's tuned in tonight. Thank you. Okay, so Jessica, thank you for understanding on that. Just a couple business things with Unfound. Going to be having another meeting, and hello, Rachel. Rachel just joined in. Going to be having another meeting with a woman who I guess is a business partner of mine. I really don't want to mention her name, but I've known her for almost 18 years now. We became good friends when I lived in Las Vegas. And she is working with me on some things. I've mentioned on the show and then in the group that, I've been in contact with a couple TV producers. And so she and I are going to be having another conversation about what we can do with that this weekend. We're going to be, I'm looking to branch out. As you know, that I am on the, I'm now joined with TribLive.com in Pittsburgh, Trib Total Media, working with them with missing persons cases. And, of course, they carry the podcast on their site. And I can't tell you how much that has meant to me, and it will continue to mean to me all in 2018. But I'm going to be trying to do more stuff like that. Trying to affiliate myself with other media companies out there, other, I guess what you'd say, newspapers and media sites and places like that, places that have reporters and writers and editors. And so my business partner and I are going to be working on contacting more of those types of people in the hopes that they'll carry the show as well, and also maybe work with them on missing persons cases. We'll just have to see. But that's going to be something that she and I are going to be working on. Really, she's probably going to be the one that's contacting them, because I don't have time, because of all of the phone calls that I make, all of the interviews that I do, of course, putting the show together, and the research and investigating that I do for the episode every week. So that's why I am, joined with her. I asked her if she'd be interested to do it. She does some other things. Once again, I don't want to give her name out, right? That she probably doesn't need that kind of attention, but she has her own things. But I think that she, she's a woman that I trust. I've known her for a long time. We're very close, and she has the skills and talents to do this side of what's going to be done. So I'm going to be talking to her again on Sunday. And, another thing that I was surprised, and maybe I'd like some comments. And, and once again, if you have any questions for me about anything, I love to answer all of your questions. This is the time to do it. So if you have any questions about the show, about me, somebody already asked me about, said about the poster in the background, please, I didn't bring any questions to the show tonight. So if you have anything to ask me, anything, as long as it's PG, we can talk about it. So please, if you have any questions, please let me know. But I just would like some feedback on this. I've never had satellite radio, although my car is hooked up for it. I don't have it in my car. Do you think it's, all of you are true crime people? Your listeners, I know, and you listen to a bunch of other programs too, and that's great. Are you surprised that there is not a true crime channel on Sirius XM radio? Is that a little surprising to you? Is there something that I'm missing regarding that? Because I don't know that environment. my parents, the only time I've ever listened to Sirius XM is because my parents have it in their car. So when I go see them during the summer, they have it. I don't have it in my car. I've never had a car that's had it. So yes, Stephanie, is that when you say yes, Stephanie, do you mean yes, you are surprised they don't? I'm guessing. And Jessica, yes, they have everything else. But true crime, all of you know in podcasting, is one of those most popular genres. Of course, Serial has helped that. Kind of put it on the radar, I guess, about 5 years ago. And then, some of the other podcasts that have been real popular, some affiliated with NPR, many that aren't, and that's great. But I was stunned that I was going through the channels just recently for SiriusXM, like on online, and I was surprised they do not have a true crime channel. And I'm wondering why. Is there a reason that they haven't done that? I just don't know. And so I know all of you listen to way more true crime podcasts than I do because I'm too busy. I think that there is, something there that I'm going to be thinking about, and that's another conversation that my business partner and I are going to be talking about on Sunday. Can we make something like that happen? So Jessica says, yes, Holly, yes, Stephanie, yes, I'm surprised it's not. Joyce, great to see you. Andrea, that's a great idea. I had a free subscription for a year, but don't use it because I listen to podcasts. And see, my perception is that podcasts and series like satellite radio are competitors. That's my impression. And so I'm thinking that maybe SiriusXM would like its own channel. But you have to put people together. You just couldn't have one show. You'd have to have a bunch of podcasters with different types of shows, to fill up all that time 24/7. So we're thinking about that. So I just wanted to run that by you because I know most of you are probably more familiar with SiriusXM and satellite radio and actual other true crime podcasts and everything than I am. Frankly, I just do my show. I know other hosts. I like them. They're good people. They do different shows, the kind of show than I do. Everybody has their own talents and skills. But so I'm not sure if you've ever heard any other host talk about this. Have you ever heard of any other podcast host who's tried to do that and they've gotten turned down? I would be interested in hearing anything you've ever heard about any of that. It would be very helpful to me, and I would deeply appreciate it because really, all I know is there's no true crime channel on there, and that seems like there should be. That's just how my mind works. So thank you, Becky. You think it's a good idea? I think I do too. Thank you. Joyce, probably money plays a part in the area. Don't know. I think that. As I've said, I don't know how many of you've heard me say it, but, podcasting is still a relatively new form of communication. And I can tell you there are many guests who, when I tell them that I have a podcast, they have no idea what I'm talking about. Now, gradually, they eventually do know what I'm talking about. And, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But I run into many people that I talk to about the show that don't know what podcasting is, even after all these years. But everybody seems to know what satellite radio is. And, I have my own opinion about, accessing podcasts. I think that iTunes is terrible. I think it's hard for people to understand. If you aren't an Apple person, a Mac person, then it's doubly hard. It's very hard to give reviews. It's hard to sign up. It's just... and it feels like they have a little bit of a monopoly. Well, I think that maybe SiriusXM would maybe like to get in on that monopoly. So these are the things that are going through my head as I think about this. And once again, any of you have any opinions on that, have SiriusXM. Have you known any hosts or anything that have ever talked about trying to do that? I'd love to hear what there is to say about it. I think it's a tremendous opportunity to spread the word about disappearances and unsolved murders and all of these things in a venue where I think more people understand what satellite radio is and less people understand what podcasting is. That's my perception. Stephanie, couldn't 48 hours type shows carry the show financially, but let another lesser known podcast on the rest of the time? I suppose. I just don't know. You know, the thing is, the 48 type of shows, they're video. And satellite radio, of course, is just audio. So you'd have to start with something that's audio. So that's why I'm just, this is rattling. It's been rattling around in my brain for a while. Finally brought it up to my business partner. And we're going to be talking about it Sunday and how to access these people who make those types of decisions. And I'll keep you posted. I just hope I'm not letting something out of the bag here. Hoping somebody doesn't steal my idea. iTunes, Andrea, iTunes is terrible. I agree with you. I actually believe that iTunes is holding podcasting back. I'll just be honest with you. And I have a Mac, and I am very Mac proficient. I edit Unfound on my Mac. I love my Mac Mini. I love it. And in fact, I'm probably going to be getting a Mac laptop very soon. But I hate iTunes. I just hate it. Holly, you think I have something here? Well, I guess we'll find out, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Apple's app is awful. I stink. Still can't leave a review. Andrea, you are not alone. All right? And so, once again, just wanted to run that all by you. You, of course, there's not, you know, when I do this show, it's my favorite time of the week. It really gives me a chance to talk to all of you one-on-one, get your opinions on a variety of things, on cases, on podcasting in general. This is why I love talking to all of you, because it really helps me figure things out. All right? Because frankly, in a lot of these things, you know more than I do. I know a lot about putting the program together. I know how to interview people. I know how to contact them. But my perception is you know probably more about the entire podcasting environment because you're listening to a variety of shows. Maybe you even communicate with some of these other hosts. And, you know, you can give me feedback because I just don't have the time. I just don't. I wish that the week was like 9 weeks long, 9 days long, and each day was about 36 hours. That would make things a little easier. So I just wanted to run that by you. But that's the kind of thing that I will have in the newsletter to all of these people on the email list. Those things, just updating people. So I'm going to be having this meeting on Sunday. She lives in California. I live here. We met each other when we both lived in Las Vegas. We worked together for a while. And so we're going to be talking on Sunday, and we're going to be I'm going to be doing like half the work, and she's going to be doing half the work with some of these things that I've talked about. I think it's, once again, one more way to spread the word. And this isn't just something for Unfound. This is something that I want to include other podcast hosts and their shows in all of it. You know, I don't mind leading this and everything, but I need them, I think, to make a channel. You know, and I want to include them and get as good a people as I could get. Even though I know a lot of these shows, there's some shows that are much more popular and found and people who've been doing it longer. But I think that I have a good pitch, and I know I have a good person I'm working with. So I just wanted to run that all by you. Let's just get some of the business stuff out of the way. We've been talking business anyway. Just want to tell you about Volume 2 is out now. Did you see it? Volume 2 is out on Amazon.com. Of course, Volume 1 is the white cover, white and red cover. Volume 2 is a green cover with a stack of manila envelopes in the background. Have the cases of Joshua Guimond, Donnie Smatlack, Andre Bowman, Robin Abrams, Regina Marie Boss, and Christopher Hyde. The foreword is written by Tad DeBias, of course, the lawyer, the nobody guy, a guy I interviewed about a year ago. And then his interview is also included at the end of that book, the interview that I did with him about a year ago. So it's available in both print and ebook form. And I think some of you, I owe some books too. So I'll be taking care of that for Volume 2. The playing cards, I'm in the process. Not only are we going to just have the deck of the first 52 cases, but I'm starting to make decks with pictures of one person alone. So a deck with all of Suzanne Lyle's picture, a deck with all of Jason Jolkowski's picture. I'm starting from the beginning and doing that. I started on that this morning before I went and disc golfed. And I'm also going to be putting together decks that are particular to states. So all of the cases in California, they will all be included in one deck. All right, if there's 6 cases there, it'll be just divided up between all of the cases. So people will be able to buy a California case, all the California cases, or all the Florida cases, or all the Texas cases, or all the Pennsylvania cases. I'm going to be doing that as well. Once again, I think this will help if somebody wants to buy them and give them to a prison. It won't just be for one case. It'll be for all, it'll be for all of those cases in that state. Just an idea. We got that going on. Let me do one thing here for a second. I want to make sure that I'm not missing any questions from anybody, any notifications or anything else. So let me check this very quickly. Let me see comments. Andrew, I hope nobody steals the idea from you. I don't listen. Holly says I don't listen to the radio anymore. I just Bluetooth my podcast shows. Becca says I can't leave reviews on iTunes either. See, this is what I'm talking about. And Shannon says, I agree podcasting is still coming up in the world. I only started listening to podcasts before Stormy linked to her interview. See, this is what I'm saying, whereas everybody knows what SiriusXM is. And you see, all of you are kind of proving, I think, what I have in my head, that we as podcasters, we need to branch out. Although we take great pride in being podcasters and reporters, but we are in a medium that still a lot of people don't quite understand, and it's hard to access. We need to get in front of more ears and more eyeballs, and I think that SiriusXM, both for the families and all these cases we cover, but for ourselves as well. I mean, there's a lot of podcasters do it part-time. They may have a weekly show, but they have like a real job that they do. I'm maybe one of the few that doesn't. But we need to get in front of more people, and these cases need to get in front of more people, and we need to make the programs as easy to access as possible. That means that's exactly why it's so good, I think, for Unfound to be with TribLive.com. It's easy to access. People could just go there, and it's there. So, yes, Andrew, I hope nobody steals the idea from you. And, for me, I like, when I get in my car, I like to take a break from podcasting. And maybe some of you are friends with me on Facebook. I've been talking about listening to all these 80s bands that I've been listening to. I have a Spotify account that I love, except there's no Def Leppard in there and there's no Badlands in there, which still ticks me off. So I like to take a break from podcasting and I listen to my music, whereas I know all of you listen to a lot of different shows. That's why I love getting all this feedback from you, and I can't thank you enough. You can really educate me on some of these things. So something we're going to be working on, and I have missed some of these comments, and I hate missing them. So we talked about the playing cards, going to be expanding that quite a bit. So be looking for that. And then the T-shirts, I know some people have bought some T-shirts. I can't thank you enough. The big deal probably most recently, of course, we have T-shirts for virtually, not quite, but almost all of the shows that, the cases that Unfound has covered, the missing people. But I also have an Unfound first-year case T-shirts, like a collage of pictures on the back, everyone from Suzanne Lyle up to Jennifer Wilkerson. So that's on unfound-podcast.myshopify.com. So please check that out. I usually have my links here, but I forgot them tonight. But I link to those things. You know what I'm talking about. And so we got the books, we got the playing cards, we got the T-shirts at unfound-podcast.myshopify.com, and of course Patreon and PayPal for those recent contributors, all the contributors. I cannot thank you enough. It certainly, helps me do what has to be done for the show and making a lot of these things happen. So I deeply appreciate that. Deeply appreciate it. Let's make sure I'm not missing any comments or anything like that. Just want to make sure. And okay, so anybody have any 51 comments? How do I miss these? I just sorry, I just get confused sometimes. It seems like the comments are going well and then they like disappear. I don't know why this happens. And I haven't been able to figure it out. All right. So let's move on to the news. And of course I have to talk about Jessica, thank you. Joyce, I'm building an empire. Yeah, well, remember what happened to the empire in Star Wars, Joyce. That's all I can that's all I can tell you. That's funny though. That's like Andrew pointed out, let's all agree here not to reveal Ed's idea. Well, thanks, Stephanie. I deeply appreciate it. I think it'll get out there once I post this to YouTube. But Becca asked me, will you cover the missing California 5? There are 5 young men who went missing in around the same area. I'm not familiar with that, Becca. I'm just not. If you want to send me a link, you can email me, put their names together. I'll gladly look into it. It just does not ring a bell off the top of my head. So you're going to probably have to tell me a little bit more information on that. I apologize. Where I want to start first tonight is with this Rebecca Martinez. I know you saw, I know it's been posted everywhere. It's like a mainstream story now. She disappeared in November. I'm sure you saw this. And now she's on The Bachelor. And I have to tell you, it's one more reason that I don't watch reality TV. Of course, I don't watch any TV. I don't have cable. I don't have satellite. All I have is a DVD player hooked up to my TV. But back in November, she told her mother that she was going to work on a marijuana farm up in Humboldt County. And you should know Humboldt County is the same area where Jeff Joseph disappeared. That was a case that we covered last year. His sister, Vicky Joseph, who I've talked to quite a bit over the past 9 months. That's where he disappeared, Humboldt County. And he, of course, was in the marijuana business. And really, there is an epidemic of disappearances up in Humboldt County, California. I mean, Becky, you brought up these 5 guys. Were they from the Humboldt County area? Becca, maybe you can let me know. If it was in the Humboldt County area, I'm not surprised. So you think it's the Yorba 5. I am not, Andrew, I don't know that, the Yorba 5. But here she ended up on The Bachelor. She obviously lied to her mother about where she was going, and she went to be on The Bachelor, and she ended up in France. And her mother then found out in December that her daughter was all right, but the police never took Rebecca's name off the missing persons list. And so some viewer of The Bachelor was watching and then recognized her. She was going by the name Becca M, I guess, and figured out that this missing girl was actually her. First of all, if you saw the picture of her, the missing persons picture, and then on The Bachelor, she certainly got a makeover. I have to admit, whoever was watching The Bachelor noticed it was the same person, has a really, really keen eye. I don't know that if I would have ever noticed that. I have to admit, it probably would have slipped right by me, but it didn't slip by this viewer's eyes. And so, you know, this is a little bit of a problem because, you know, it jams up all of the missing people who are actually missing. If the police don't know that somebody has come back and, you know, that's still on their missing persons roll, that only hurts all of these people who are actually missing. And I think this is one of the reasons why so many families get kind of a little bit blown off when they go to the police about a missing person. You know, I think it's a bigger problem. I think that what this weird story shows is that this does happen. It's a bigger problem than most people realize, of people who have actually come back still being on missing persons lists. And, you know, it's like, whose fault is it? You know, who is to blame for this? Yeah, Andrea says, your sister is an adult social worker, case manager in Humboldt County. Lots of missing and marijuana issues up there. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. I'm not saying it necessarily has to do with missing people and marijuana, but it certainly is true that there are a lot of missing people up in that particular county. That's certainly true. So who's to blame for why does this happen? It's somebody who obviously, even the mother knew she wasn't missing in December, but here in February, she's still on a missing persons list. Well, I have to believe that it starts with a family. You know, I think that if you are a family who files a missing persons report, you have every good reason to do so. But if your loved one comes back, whatever happened, they went on a bender, they went to get away to an island for a week and you didn't know, whatever the case may be, if you put in a missing persons report, please call the police and tell them that your person came back. Okay? Even if it means taking that person down to the police station saying, see, this person, my daughter, my son, my sister, whoever, is back. So the police can then, you know, put the paperwork away and they're not looking for somebody who actually isn't missing. That's where I think, you know, that what's slipping through the cracks, you know, and it's not good. The police have probably too much work as it is. You know, we don't have to burden them with even more work that actually isn't work. You know, the people who should be getting the attention are the people who are still missing. But if the police are looking for people who actually have been found or have come home and everything, and they're never told, you know, that's not the police's fault. It's not the cop's fault. It's not a policeman's fault. It's not law enforcement's fault. It has to be up to those families to make sure they follow up. And remember that they filed a missing police report. And they have to remember, the only way that missing persons report goes away is if they go down there and tell them the person's been found. Yeah, Mandy, you're right. It is the family's responsibility. You're right. Hello, Christina. Welcome tonight. Yeah, and Vicky, yes, you know it exactly. It's so difficult to get the police to pay attention, to pay serious attention when adults so missing. This behavior just gives them more reason to say, oh, well, they probably just walked away from their life. Happens all the time. So disappointing she did this. Vicky, you're exactly right. And I have to say that Rebecca's attitude toward all of this has certainly been a little flippant, not realizing what she did is fairly serious and how it causes problems for all these other people, like you, Vicky, like you, Bonnie, like Jessica is in here, and Joyce. It causes more problems for people like you. That's exactly true. It's just true. So, you know, I hope somebody, you know, this girl's 22 years old. You know, she wants to be on a reality TV show, which in my mind isn't the greatest aspiration in the world. Let's just put it that way. So, you know, she wants to be on TV. She wants to be a star. It's all about her. That she can't call the police and say, you know what, I'm not missing. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. But she and her family bear a lot of responsibility, most of the responsibility for how this story just kind of got out of control, where it's in February and the family knows the young woman's not missing, but the police don't. It's just bad. And Jessica, Joyce, they certainly did. They certainly did mess up your case. And Jessica, they don't want to work the case. You know, police don't need to be given any more reasons not to pay attention to missing cases. That's what I could say for sure after a year and a half of doing Unfound. So let's move on to something else. Now, On the more positive side, I don't know if you've seen this. I didn't post this in the group yet. Wisconsin, I think this is the first state that is doing this, I think. We already know about Amber Alerts for children. Wisconsin is starting a Green Alert. And what that is, it's a missing persons alert for veterans. We have a huge missing veterans problem. I mean, there's a site just devoted to that. It's missingveterans.com. A lot of veterans suffer from depression. And I'm not just talking about the most recent conflicts the United States in, but this goes back to Iraqi freedom in the early 90s. Of course, going back to even Vietnam, that a lot of these vets, they do go missing. They have PTSD, they have depression, they have suicidal thoughts. And now the state of Wisconsin is starting something. It's not technically a law yet, but it's probably going to pass. It's called a Green Alert. So if a vet goes missing in that state, you'll get a notice on your phone. Like, I'll get Amber Alert messages, at least I do here in Florida when it happens, to be on the lookout for this veteran. I think it's a fantastic idea. And it's called, I think the law, if you want to look it up, it's called the Corey Adams Searchlight Act. And its name, Corey Adams was a veteran who went missing, and they eventually found him, I don't believe alive. And I think the thinking is if they had something like this in at the time, he wouldn't have died. I don't know if he committed suicide or he died of the elements. I don't remember. Or maybe I didn't even read it. But I think it's a fantastic idea, and it's probably overdue. Probably something like this is overdue for missing vets, because this PTSD stuff has been going on for a long time. I mean, PTSD is not new. It's just that's the newest term. It used to be battle fatigue or shell shocked, or also they used to use back in the day, like World War I, World War II. And with the technology that we have today, we can do that now. And if a family goes down and say this person was a veteran, he was in Iraq or Afghanistan, and now we can't find him, they'll be able to access everybody's phone, send us all alerts or as a text or however it works, and be on the lookout, for this John Doe, Jane Doe, who is a veteran who may be having suicidal thoughts, maybe depressed. It's called a Green Alert. And I think Wisconsin is the first state that's going to be doing this. I would expect many states to probably follow suit. That's what I would expect. Holly says they protect us. We should do the same for them. Absolutely true. Jessica, that's so amazing to hear. They are finally paying more attention to the ones who serve their country. True. Amanda, I hope they will provide some education around not approaching a veteran if they see them, but calling law enforcement instead. Amanda, that's a very good point. People want to be helpful, but if you don't try to handle this on your own. Just call 911 and let the police take care of it. You don't know what kind of frame of mind that veteran might be in. Let the people who have been trained to handle those types of things handle it. If you call 911, that is your job as a citizen, to just be on the lookout to do that. You are not responsible for anything outside of that. Just calling 911 is great. Is absolutely great. Vicky says we also have a veteran silver alert for senior citizens. Vicky, I'm guessing, is that a national thing? Is that in Oregon? I know you live in Oregon, Vicky, maybe. But in grade, Avelli just treated all missing alerts seriously. Amber, green, silver. In reality, I've been told by experts that 85% of missing adults are murder victims. So all are important, veteran or not. True. That's true. And I'd have to say that at 85% of missing adults are murder victims is probably true. That would probably be a number that I would pick off the top of my head. And see Christina here, look what Christina's saying. I was in the Army. I've been out Since 2014, since then, I've personally known 4 who've died by suicide. The green alert is a fantastic idea. I hope it catches on. And Joyce says, I think all of service members should have IDs, implants to find them. I guess that would have to be a personal preference thing. Jessica says you have that in Arizona. Well, that's great. The silver alert they have in Arizona. Okay. Yeah. So we have some comments on that. So we'll be able to see if that cuts down on veterans going missing. We'll see. In Wisconsin, I think that'll be a good test state to do that. So once again, it's called the Corey Adams Searchlight Act. You want to look it up, that's what it's called. One more final piece of news. Excuse me. I went and disc golf till dark. I go to Publix, get something to eat, come gum, and I ate right before I came on camera. So I apologize if I got a couple burps going on. I missed this, and this is my fault. But February 3rd, this past Saturday, was the first National Missing Persons Day. Did anybody even realize that? I have to admit that I missed it, and that's my fault. I should know more about these things. I have no excuse for that. I wish somebody would have consulted me before they made February 3rd National Missing Persons Day. And I'll tell you, I think it's a fantastic idea. Don't get me wrong. And we know states that have their own Missing Persons Day. Of course, Florida's was back in December. That's where I got to meet Joyce, one of my favorite guests on Unfound, who I've gotten to know very well. We got to meet in person for the first time. Of course, her daughters got recognized back in December at Florida's Missing Persons Day. But I think February 3rd, or whatever it is, the first Saturday in February, I don't know if that's the best choice, simply because of the Super Bowl. Early February in the United States is completely taken up by Super Bowl media. And there's a reason that no other sports events or anything else takes place, the Sunday of the Super Bowl. And I think if you want to gain attention for a National Missing Persons Day, that you pick a day. If you're going to make it a day, make it a day in a month where there's not much going on, so you can get maximum media exposure as possible. You don't do it because the Super Bowl is always played at the beginning of February. And the Super Bowl ads, they buy up all the time, all the TV time, all the radio time, all the internet time. That's the only thing that people are talking about. It just seems like, I think, once again, I think it's a fantastic idea, but picking just one day that's so close to the Super Bowl is a mistake. And they, whoever started this, that would be my recommendation. Maybe I have to take a look at, see who actually started it, and email them or something, being that I know a little bit about missing persons. That they may want to consider moving that, maybe to the middle of March, or later in February, or like August, the beginning of August or something like that. It just seems like the beginning of February is like the worst time of the year to do that. So it just, and maybe the reason that I missed it is because it was so close to the Super Bowl. I'm not looking for excuse. I should know these things. Vicky says that May 25th has been Children's Missing Persons Day in the U.S. for many years. Seems a little redundant. I agree with Amanda's comment too. February should be Human Trafficking Awareness Month instead. That's fine by me. The Super Bowl can incorporate education around the fact that the Super Bowl is a huge draw for human trafficking. That's true. August is Drowning Impact Awareness Month. Jessica, of course, I know that you would know all about that, being the work you do in Arizona, the good work you do there. I agree with all that. I just think if you're going to pick out one, the entire February month being something, I think it's already Black History Month, though. But if you're going to pick one day, I think that it just needs to be moved somewhere else. So, wish you could buy a spot in the Super Bowl for an Unfound ad. Shannon, that's very considerate. What does an ad in the Super Bowl go for? $5 million? I think that's the going rate now, something like that. Yeah, that would be a fantastic, though. If I ever hit Powerball, you can guarantee that I promise to do that. If I ever hit Powerball, I promise you I will get an ad for Unfound on there, because I will keep even hit Powerball or whatever. The show will continue. The podcast will continue, and I'll see what I can do, Shannon. Just a thought. It was just something that I thought of with February 3rd and thought, that's just a bad time of the year for one day. We're going to have to step up our donations. Just joking. Oh, come on, Ed. You could buy a few ads. Yeah, right. Yeah. Me and my, no. No, not possible. So let's get to, okay, we have still some things going on here. Monty, thank you. And Dee says, Dee, I didn't even welcome you into the show tonight. I saw you get in earlier and I was all talking. Hello. You say iTunes, you like it for the most part, but I don't have a Mac. But it's fairly easy to use. But I've noticed now and again that it will say an episode is temporarily unavailable and never becomes available, so I have to find another method to listen to different podcasts. Doesn't happen too often. Well, Dee, I have to tell you, you're very fortunate that you can navigate the iTunes maze. I know I still have problems with it. Many listeners have contacted me about it. I think that iTunes restricts podcasting, not expands it. Holly says there's so many missing people out there. I think that would be help to get the word out. I know if I have a loved one, I want to do everything I could. Jessica, how many cases do you have in Arizona? I think Tyler's is the only disappearance I've done in Arizona so far, Jessica. I think I have 2 in Texas. I have a multitude in Florida. We got one coming up, and we're going to get to that shortly. One in California. Of course, we've done some other California ones. Jeff Joseph. Ashley Kohler was another disappearance in California. So I think, Jessica, that Tyler is the only case we've done in Arizona so far. So I hope that answers your question there. I'm always looking to cover more states. There's a multitude of states that I've not done anything on yet. Hawaii, Maine, for example, Montana. I don't think we've done a case there yet. Of course, we've done a few in Idaho so far. Have we done one in Washington yet? I don't think so. Speaking of which, let's just get to this week's case. This week's case is one that was already covered on Disappeared, I guess about 5 years ago. It's the disappearance of Mandy Stokes. And the title of this episode is called A Hard Place. And the interview is with her mother, Deborah Murray, who I've had a lot of contact with. And she did appear on the Disappeared program when it aired. Christina says maybe soon in Montana. I hope you're right. I don't think you've done one for Alabama. I'd have to think about that, Holly. I don't know. Think about that. Actually, I do have one coming up, and I think I have one coming up in Alabama, Holly. As a matter of fact, I think I do. Haven't done the interview yet, but we're planning to do an interview, so be watching for that. But this week's episode, once again, it's called A Hard Place. It's the disappearance of Mandy Stokes. She disappeared in Oakland, California. And it's a disappeared episode, and as usual, as anybody that's been watching or listening to Unfound from the beginning, you know that my opinion of the way Disappeared covers episodes is lacking. I think I don't have a very high opinion of it. Of course, they're limited to like 44 minutes. But you're going to hear some things in my interview with Mandy's mother that Disappeared left out. I linked to the episode. You could watch it for free online, kind of illegally. But Disappeared definitely gives the opinion. You will see that episode that Mandy's brother, who was her roommate at the time, is the main suspect. It certainly makes him look very guilty. And I want to say before we get to the Friday episode, yes, he is a suspect. Okay, he is. He just is. But we're going to present some information, facts. And as usual, I ask very tough questions of Deborah because, of course, Mandy is her daughter and Aaron's her son, and it's possible that her son could have something to do with her daughter, his sister's disappearance. But I think that we've come across a few things that that maybe show that Aaron didn't have something to. They are not definitive, all right? They're not definitive by any means. But as usual, all I'm going to do is present the facts, and all of you, the listeners, are going to have to make a decision for yourself. Obviously, it doesn't look good for him. If you've watched the Disappeared episode, he had an argument with Mandy before she disappeared. He was stealing money from her. He was writing checks in her name, and he has an addiction, and they had some arguments and other things. But there are a few pieces of information that were left out. Probably the main one being that Mandy was in her car when the cell phone died, and she was in that car by herself. So she was driving somewhere and had left Aaron behind. So he was not there when her phone died, and he was not in the car with her. So I think that's a major piece of information. And we, once again, as you know, I asked some pretty tough questions of Deborah, and you're going to get the answers. What were they arguing about that would cause him to kill her? Well, they just weren't getting along, Joyce. Like I said, he was stealing money from her. She was trying to stop it. And they weren't getting along. As brothers and sisters living together, you could take that for what it's worth. But it's definitely true that she got in her car and drove away from the apartment, and Aaron did not go with her. So it's something we're going to have to figure out. And once again, there's more detail in the episode. But in this interview, you're going to hear Deborah's conflict. And there's a reason that it's the episode's called A Hard Place, because she's in, between a rock and a hard place. Whereas on, one hand, she wants the case solved. She wants Mandy to be found. But on the other hand, you can hear the fear in her voice that it might mean that her son is the person who caused Mandy to disappear. So she's conflicted. And, there's many things you're going to hear her say, I don't know, I don't recall, in this interview quite a bit. And that is part of the trauma, part of the emotional damage that has been done to her over the years. With this contemplation, is it possible that her son had something to do with her daughter's disappearance? Okay? And so you're going to hear that probably more than any other guest I've heard, because all of the other guests I've had on the program, they can pretty much go at it 100%. But in Deborah's case, there is that part of her that wonders, am I going to find out too much about my son by doing this? In the process of going to find out what happened to Mandy, is she going to lose a son as well? So we talk about that. And you're going to hear it. How I have it written in my notes, how do you pick between a son and a daughter? Can't. I don't have any kids, but I'm a son. For all of you who have multiple children, hard to pick, hard to do. So this is the conflict that she's been in. She's between a rock and a hard place, and that's why this episode is called A Hard Place. And I just don't want you to think that she's not, when it comes to the interview and she can't remember things, it's not because I believe she's hedging or because she's trying to protect her son or anything like that. I think this is part of the emotional damage that she's had in the last so many years, the last 10 to 12 years since the disappearance happened. So it's a very unique interview. This, I think, the first time we've done something like this, but I try to get as many facts from her as I can, and I'm going to continue to work with her. She might have some updates for me before the program on Friday. If so, I will include them in the summary after the interview. So, those are all things to be looking for this Friday's episode. Again, the interview is with Sarah Murray. She is the mother of Mandy Stokes, who disappeared in Oakland, California. And once again, it's an episode that's been on Disappeared. And it might be helpful to you, if you can find it online, to watch that episode before Friday or before you listen to it, whenever you do listen to your episode of Unfound. Because I think that'll create a very good picture for you. Jessica said, my mom and my relationship is pretty much gone now because of me speaking out, so I understand Deborah's feelings. Jessica, that's very considerate. And I know, and we don't want to get into that right here, but yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. We've talked about that. So, Christina says you can access Disappeared episodes on Amazon by signing up for the 1 week free trial, then immediately canceling the subscription. Well, Christina, aren't you tricky? You can have free access to all episodes for 7 days, but you didn't hear that from me. She put that in parentheses. You're very tricky, Christina. I go to a site called MyDareWatch, MyDarewatch.com. I watch Star Trek episodes there. I watch Columbo episodes there, and Disappeared episodes are on there as well. I know that it's not totally legal, but all of you might want to check that out for yourself. So let's go through it. We talked about some business stuff. We talked about Sirius XM Radio. We talked about me having a meeting with my business partner on Sunday. Talked about the newsletter. Talked about the Super Bowl, how I worked during the second half of it. We did business. Volumes 1 and 2 are out now. I hope you'll check them out on Amazon. The playing cards, the T-shirts at unfound-podcast.myshopify.com. The Patreon and PayPal podcast at gmail.com or patreon.com/unfoundpodcast. We talked about the reality star Rebecca Martinez, who was missing, but she wasn't. We talked about Wisconsin and the green alert there, that they are passing the law there. We talked about February 3rd, the National Missing Persons Day, which I think is a bad day for that. And then finally, we talked about the disappearance of Mandy Stokes. That's going to be this Friday's episode. Any more questions, any more comments? We've been doing this for an hour, longest show yet, but we covered a lot of, I think, I always try to provide as much material in here so we don't have any lulls in here. I try to pack this as much full of information as I can, and I appreciate all the comments. And I appreciate everybody watching tonight. I'm going to be leaving you for tonight. Of course, you will hear my voice on Friday. And with the disappearance of Mandy Stokes, and I'm going to be working this weekend. You should know next weekend I have a disc golf tournament, so I don't know how much work I'm going to get done that weekend, but this weekend I'm going to be working right through the weekend on some things, doing an interview, probably 2 interviews on Saturday. So I'm going to go. It was a pleasure talking to all of you tonight. It's my favorite time of the week. I say that every week, but it's my favorite time. Holly, thank you. I'm going to keep up the good work. I appreciate that. Thank you. And until you hear my voice on Friday, I hope you all have a beautiful next couple days, and I will talk to you later. Thank you all for tuning in. I cannot thank you enough. Have a beautiful night. You've been watching Unfound, the Unfound Podcast Facebook Live show. Good night.